What's up, you guys? It's Marissa from Push Past Paralysis, back with another video. This video is probably one of the most important and impactful videos that I will ever make, if you allow it to be. All I ask is that you keep an open mind, allow me to say what I'm going to say, and if you don't like it, or even if you do, we can discuss, but I ask that you just scroll if you can't be respectful and discuss. But allow this video to have a life. So, identity politics is the new segregation. Identity politics is the segregation of our time. And I will never not believe that, especially as a disabled woman. It's being put into a category, being put into a box. You're forced to play small. You're forced to think how the powers that be tell you that you're going to think. You're shamed if you don't. I have never thought how somebody else wanted me to think. I've even questioned my own Push Past Paralysis platform because my disability is so little of who I am as a person in everyday life. But I know that the people that I want to reach allow it to affect them, so that's why I keep it. Because I want to resonate with people who need it. But other than that, identity politics is not something that I want anything to do with. I firmly believe that the issues are what matters. The issues that affect each of us individually, affect our families, affect those closest to us, our neighbors, the people in our certain states. I'm in the United States, by the way. And I am definitely not a one-issue voter, but I am an issue voter on the issues that affect me directly. So today, I wanted to talk about that. I wanted to talk about the issues that exist on a broader scale and how they affect those of us living with disabilities, even if you can't tell on face value. So here we go. I have made a list, so I might be looking down at some points. Okay. One thing that I wanted to say before we get into the list is I'm for small government, okay? And I know that a lot of people living with disabilities think that the government, needs to do more, be more, do more things. And in some aspects, yes, which we will get into, but there's many things that those of us living with disabilities can and should do, or relying on our fellow Americans to help us do, rather than giving that power to the government. The more power you give to the government, I don't care who you are, the worse off you'll be in the end. So here we go with the list. Okay. National security. How does national security affect us? Well, my main two issues are safety and independence. I should be able to go where I want to go, know that my country is a country with borders, and not worry about my safety and security, not worry about who's being led into the country. I mean, regardless of politics, and I really want to stress this point, I made a video a couple of weeks back, or maybe even a week back, about Sound of Freedom. That movie is not political. It's happening on both sides, and it's something that especially people living with disabilities who are trying to be independent and not have somebody with us 24/7 should worry about. The next is the economy. which is in the tank right now. I don't care if you're on a fixed income. I don't care about any of that. You, as an American, are affected by the tanking economy right now. Whether that's rent, mortgage, bills, taxes, food, utilities, everything is going up. And statistically, unless you're completely financially independent as a disabled person, even if you are, the taxes and everything being hiked is going to affect you too. But especially if you're not financially independent, it's going to directly affect you when everything goes up. And it already is. This is a doozy. America first. This one is incredibly important to me. And it piggybacks off of having national security, because when we put America last, if America is not first, the citizens are not first. And who is the most forgotten men and women of America? You could say it's the immigrants. You could say it's, the poor. It's the disabled. I might be a little bit biased there, but we are statistically the most forgotten men and women. We're 20% of the world's poorest, and I can give you a whole other list of statistics, which I might actually put in the description if I can. If we put America last, you might as well just say we're putting disabled people last. And then the illegals that are coming across our borders from every country in the world get everything free. Really think about that. Turn your bleeding heart off for a minute and really use your brain. How does that make you feel? If you're struggling to get something, but somebody who cut the line should be fighting for things in their own country get things before you. That pisses me off. The next one, I already mentioned this sort of, which is low taxes and everything will be cheaper. I ranted about that, so we'll kind of not really gloss over it, but I touched on it already. Didn't realize I was going to put it with the economy, but it is what it is. The next one is something that both sides of the aisle love to fight about so that you can vote for them again, but they never actually get around to doing. Infrastructure. Whether that's technology, whether that's roads, bridges, other different modes of transportation. A lot of people living with disabilities don't drive for one reason or another. A big reason nowadays is the economy. You're forced to choose between having a roof over your head or having a mode of transportation. So, it'd be nice to have some infrastructure. And not only would that benefit everybody, but we need things more walkable. We need more ramps. We need more elevators. We need, and I get it, like as I always say, you can't necessarily change every single building, but there's things that you could do to every single building that would make it more accessible. The next one is healthcare. And I'm going to put caretakers in this one because a lot of the paid caretakers from the healthcare system either abuse people. Have you looked into nursing homes? It's a mess. And if you are a family member caretaker, you shouldn't be penalized where you can't work financially because you're tied to this person. So that's, caretakers has a lot of layers to it in this category. Disability education. Most doctors know nothing if you don't tell them about your specific disability. There needs to be much more education on every specific disability, and not like a cab driver who is driving an accessible wheelchair. And this is a story that actually happened to me, where he had no idea how to lock me in because he passed the test and then forgot. You don't want that in the medical field. Alternative treatments. President Trump in the last administration had right to try. That to me is huge for people living with disabilities, to have options of what to do about their situation, because there's plenty of people who actually want to see where things go, but they don't want to go through the same surgeries only for them not to work and have a long recovery. They have the quote-unquote right to try something else. Let's talk about physical and mental services, because no matter what your disability is, if it's physical, you'll have things going on a mental level. If it's something mental, it's going to show up in some way physically. There needs to be more services. I'm not saying everything has to be free. It would be nice if they were covered nicely, especially for people who are on fixed incomes. It really could probably be an income-based thing, but we need mental and physical services on a large scale in this country. And that's another point I want to make with this, is a lot of these things would benefit everybody. Like infrastructure. Having more accessibility would help single moms, would help the elderly. It's not just for people living with a disability. Okay, let's talk about this clickbait one. Social Security and Medicaid, or whichever one it is. The one that they try to scare you that it's going away. Let's say it did. Like I always like to say, okay, well, what happens if worst case scenario happens? Give us other options. Don't make it so hard to work. Allow people to work, and then they won't be so scared that they're not going to have in the future. Because if they are scared now and they work, they could save up. But it would be nice for people who don't work at all to have it. This is a big one. Fake news and propaganda. Whether you admit it or not, it has affected you. I can tell by who I interact with. The fact that I've been scared to address this to people living with disabilities before tells me that you have bought into a lot of propaganda and fake news on any channel that you watch. Think with your brain. Think about what's actually affecting you. And think about what they're trying to do to you emotionally, and turn it off. Okay. The next one is jobs and work opportunities. We need to close the gap between if you're on government income, what you're allowed to be making on that government income, and what you're allowed to be making if you work. Closing that gap, because when I was working a lot of overtime, and I got taken off because I made over the threshold, but I wasn't making what the government gave me. If you can make what the government gives you on a job, go ahead, get taken off. But if there's a gap there, it has to be closed. It's not fair to allow somebody to make only a certain amount, and you're not even giving them enough on whatever government assistance they're using. You have to close that gap, because you have people scared to work, which you like because you want to keep them on the system. Not you watching this video, I'm talking about the government. They like you dependent on them. And then they'll just take you off if you make a number that they say is okay. It doesn't make any sense to me, and it needs to be closed. Job training for people living with disabilities and the employers. The person with a disability needs specific training if they, have specific needs and specific ways of doing things. But the employer needs to be trained on, okay, does this person need extra time in the bathroom? It's kind of like an IEP for when you're a kid with a disability in school. That needs to happen at the job, so everybody's on the same page, and you don't get fired if you have an accident at work, not like physical accident, but like an accident in the bathroom and you take a little bit longer, something like that. And life skills training, because like I said before, everybody needs to be able to do as much for themselves as possible. So now, having said that, with these issues, do you agree that identity politics does not and should not matter? It doesn't matter who's going to call you what, who's going to say what about you. None of that matters. And just because you have a disability, or you're a certain color, or a certain gender, there's only two, it should not dictate how you vote. How you vote should be what is affecting you personally and your family. Period. End of story. So, we as people living with disabilities need to be empowered, not scared. And we need to own the fact that we deserve the same quality of life and the same things, excuse me, as anybody else. And we have to actually think and take a step back, or a wheel back, whatever you want to call it, and say, you know what? Yeah, I've always been told to vote this way, but are they really doing what they said they were going to do? Are they really worth my vote? Has anything really changed? Is what they're telling me to vote on really affecting my life? No. Chances are, no. And that goes for many years for both sides, because I think it's all what I call the establishment and the outsiders, the business people, and President Trump have done more. And I think that everything else separates us. The name calling, the fear that somebody hates you because of your device or your skin color, none of that is true. Are there hateful people in the world? Yeah. But to slap a name on it and give them that much power, that was by design. That was totally by design, to separate us, to scare us, and it's on us if it works. It really is. It's on us if it works. You only are affected by what you allow yourself to be affected by, emotionally and mentally. If you are unable to put food on the table, unable to pay your bills, that's your government messing with you. And that's something that you need to realize is much more important than what so-and-so says about you, or what so-and-so told you that a certain politician, Trump, thinks about you. And when it comes to the propaganda, I'll close with this. Expressions with your hands aren't making fun of everybody. Watch the clip. Did President Trump make fun of a disabled person? He uses those hand gestures for everything. So get out of your feelings. Think about what actually, and I'm not even telling you to like him, so don't come at me. I'm just saying, does that affect you more than having food on your table, and you might not pay taxes on your income. I get that, but that's where they trip you up, because everything else in the world is taxed. So you're still paying tax if you eat, if you go anywhere, if you buy anything. If you live anywhere, well, I mean, you might live with a caretaker that takes care of that, but, they're affected. And like I said, all of these things are universal. It's not just us that are affected by these things. physically. The moms put their babies in carriages. They're affected by, infrastructure. Families are affected by the economy and taxes, and we're all affected by national security and what might happen if we don't have adequate national security. So think about those things that I really do, if you take a step back and think about it, they bring us unity because they affect all of us. And if you think about that and you get out of your head and stop with what just affects you, it would benefit us more if we let the government take care of what affects all of us. And if they would stop pitting us against each other. And that's actually what I really loved about President Trump is everybody was just an American. There's so many people who need to hear, oh, I'm a, disabled person, or a woman, or a black person, or an Asian person, or a Hispanic person. I don't need that dopamine hit to hear my category come out of somebody's mouth to know that they care. No, if you're going to put America first, put all Americans first. And that's it. Enough with the division. Enough with it. That is all I wanted to say. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you for keeping an open mind. Like I said, I welcome your thoughts, your concerns. I'm willing to have discussions. I will not tolerate any hate. If I sense that you're coming at me with hate or aggression or any type of attitude, we won't be having a discussion. But I am open because I really do think that if we think about the issues that affect all of us, we can actually make some real change in this country and do better for those of us who have been the forgotten men and women for way too long. All right, so thank you guys for watching. Please subscribe if you like this video. If it resonated with you and you're new here, please subscribe. Please watch, my other videos. Most of them are not, in this depth, in this detail. But identity politics is something that I'm extremely passionate about because I don't like it. It causes too much division, and I don't like being put in a category. Especially when I know that the things that are affecting me are affecting so many other people. Why put yourself in a category? Okay, I tried closing this video twice. I'm really done now. All right, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you next video.